In Luke chapter 14, verses 28 through 32, Jesus gives us wise counsel. Whether we are constructing a barn or a king preparing for battle, we should consider the cost to determine whether we have sufficient resources to successfully complete the project so that it doesn't stand as a perpetual monument to our failure. Likewise, when we are planning a fundraising project, we would do well to count the cost to help ensure its success. This is accomplished in part by preparing a budget, which for our fundraising purposes is simply a plan for the use of both resources and expenses to accomplish the fundraising project's goals and objectives. It takes money to raise money. The question is, how much money should we spend to raise money? A properly prepared budget can help you to determine your estimated net income and the cost per dollar raised, which can serve as a guide for future projects. If you are involved in ongoing fundraising projects, you would do well to prepare a separate budget for each project. This will give you more detailed information upon which to judge the final results. If all fundraising projects are consolidated into one budget, the individual project results will be difficult to determine. A good budget should consider these points: the gathering of pertinent facts about the project. Get to know your project well. Defining objectives and goals. What do you hope to accomplish? Preparing specific plans to accomplish those objectives. Determining proper use of resources to carry out specific activities. Depending on the complexity of your fundraising program, you may want to consider some of the following categories of fundraising activities: annual giving programs, direct mail, which includes donor maintenance, telethons, finding new donors, special events, major gifts, planned gifts, corporation and foundation grants, and capital campaigns, which can be fairly significant. What items should we include in our budget? What follows are some of the typical expense items you may encounter. Some may not apply, depending on the programs, the projects that you select. They could include payroll costs, which include related benefits, professional fees if you use the services of a professional fundraiser, supplies, telephone, postage and shipping, occupancy costs such as rent and utilities, equipment rental and maintenance, printing and publications, travel, conferences, conventions, meetings, insurance, computer services, and a contingency for unexpected expenses. As to a contingency line for expenses, you may not be able to determine what every little expense might be. Allowing a factor for those items will enhance your chances of producing an accurate budget. I remember a time when I had a draftsman prepare a set of plans for a house I was building. I told him my projected costs for the house, and he advised me to list all of the expenses I could possibly think of, then add 1/3 more to cover the items I hadn't thought of. There's a lot of items to a house when you're building it. When the house was finished and all the costs were tallied up, I discovered that he was pretty much right on the money. Your project may not require a 33% contingency for unexpected expenses, but life has a way of surprising us, and chances are there will be expenses that you hadn't thought of. Reducing each category of expense to subcategories will decrease your chances of overlooking items. For example, Payroll costs could be broken down to wages, pensions, unemployment insurance, health benefits, workers' compensation, and other payroll taxes. The budget should be approved by the governing board of your institution. A properly prepared budget will go a long way towards demonstrating two very important things: accountability and transparency, and will only serve to enhance the confidence the governing body has in the project's success. Analyze previous year results, if you have any available, and consider using a gift range chart to help you with a realistic estimate of income from a project. As a rule of thumb, 80% of the gifts will come from 20% of the donors. A gift pattern has emerged that has remained constant from the 1960s. 50 to 60% of the goal comes from the 10 to 15 largest gifts. 35 to 40% of the goal comes from the next 100 to 150 largest gifts. And the remaining 15 to 20% of the goal comes from all other gifts. Monitoring your results as you go along, comparing results with your budget, and making adjustments to your program are helpful, but avoid making frequent changes to your budget once the project is underway. If you keep changing the budget to match results, you will end with a completely accurate budget, accurate simply because you have just had it mirror actual results. Learn from the budgeting process and carry out fine-tuning on your next project. What results can we expect from our investment in these projects? Well, here are some recommended average guidelines on the amount we may expect as a return on investment for each dollar spent on the various types of programs. New donor acquisition, up to $1.50. That's a good return on our investment. Special events, 50 cents of gifts raised. Annual campaign, up to 25 cents per dollar spent. Major gifts and capital campaigns, up to 15 cents. Planned giving, up to 20 cents per dollar spent. Corporate and foundation grants seeking, up to 20 cents. Here are some points that you may want to keep in mind. The proportion of budgets spent on administration and fundraising should decrease with increasing organizational size. Size and age impact a fundraising organization's efficiency. Interestingly, smallest organizations have to spend the most on fundraising to raise their contributions. Larger and younger nonprofits tend to exhibit greater efficiencies in expending dollars on program-related expenses and spend less to raise additional contributions. Management expertise, success of fundraising tactics used, timeliness and appeal of its mission, even competition from similar organizations, and especially involvement level of the board, all will impact results. I'd like to close with some budget cautions. Routine or repetitive budget preparation without analysis of previous performance can lead to inaccurate projections. Budget preparation should include consultation with volunteers, donors, and program development staff, not just finance committees or chief financial officers. Some fundraising activities overlap financial years. Not all fit nicely into a 12-month package. And lastly, supportive expenses that do not produce income, for example, research, donor cultivation and recognition, should be included in the budget process. May the Lord Jesus abundantly bless your fundraising activities above all that you may ask or think.